Have you ever wondered what could go wrong on a romantic anniversary cruise? I've been collecting the most disturbing stories from the Pacific Northwest, and what these couples experienced will haunt you. These aren't fiction. Real passengers reported encounters so terrifying that some marriages ended the moment they reached shore. From unexplained phenomena in the Inside Passage to incidents that defy explanation in the San Juan Islands, these stories prove the ocean holds darker secrets than we imagine. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Comment below. I'm Mr. Nightveil, and if you're ready to hear what really happens when romance meets terror, hit subscribe and let's explore these 10 chilling accounts. I've been on a lot of cruises with my wife over the years, but our 10th anniversary trip through Alaska's Inside Passage was supposed to be different. We'd saved for 2 years to book the 7-day northbound route from Seattle to Juneau, splurging on a balcony cabin and all the excursions we'd skipped on cheaper vacations. The ship departed on a Thursday evening, and as we stood on Deck 7 watching the Seattle skyline fade into the distance, I took our first photo of the trip. We were smiling, arms around each other, the city lights twinkling behind us. I didn't notice her then. The woman standing near the aft railing about 20 feet behind us, staring directly at the camera with an expression I can only describe as hollow. The next morning, we were up early for breakfast at the Lido Deck Buffet. The weather was overcast, but calm as we cruised through the protected waters of the Inside Passage. After eating, we explored the ship, taking photos in front of the 3-story atrium with its spiral LED chandelier by the pool, near the ship's bow where the mist sprayed up from the waves. Standard tourist stuff. We must have taken 30 or 40 pictures that first full day at sea. It wasn't until that evening, back in our cabin getting ready for dinner, that my wife scrolled through the photos on her phone and went quiet. "That's weird," she said, zooming in on one of the atrium photos. "This woman is in like 5 of these." I leaned over to look. Sure enough, there was a woman in the background, middle-aged, wearing a dark blue dress that seemed old-fashioned somehow, with long gray hair pulled back. She was standing behind us in the atrium photo, off to the side in one of the pool pictures, visible through the glass doors in a shot we'd taken in one of the ship's corridors. Always in the background, always staring at the camera with that same empty expression. "Probably just a coincidence," I said, though something about it made my skin prickle. It's a ship. People end up in the same places. But here's what I couldn't stop thinking about as we went to dinner. In every single photo, she was looking directly at the camera. Not at us, not off to the side. Directly at the lens, like she knew exactly when we were taking a picture. Day 3, we cruised through Tracy Arm Fjord, and the scenery was so spectacular, we must have taken 100 photos. Massive blue icebergs floating in crystalline water, waterfalls cascading down 1,000-foot cliffs, the narrow fjord walls rising on either side of the ship. Everyone was on deck, bundled in jackets, phones, and cameras out. We asked another couple to take our photo with the Sawyer Glacier in the background. When we got the picture back and looked at it, my wife grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks. The woman was there. But this time, she was closer, much closer. She was standing maybe 10 feet behind us now, still in that same dark blue dress despite the freezing temperature, still with that horrible, empty stare. Her face was clearer in this photo, pale, almost gray, with dark circles under her eyes and thin lips pressed into a flat line. "We need to find her," my wife said, her voice shaking. "We need to ask her what the hell she's doing." We spent the rest of the day searching. We walked every deck, checked the dining rooms, the casino, the shops, the theater. We must have looked at every middle-aged woman on the ship. Nobody matched. Nobody was wearing that dress. By dinner time, my wife was convinced we'd missed her somehow. But I had this growing feeling in my stomach that we weren't going to find her. Not because she was hiding, but because she wasn't really there to be found. The next morning, we docked in Skagway. We'd booked a White Pass railway excursion, and I was hoping getting off the ship would help us reset, forget about the weird photo situation. But as we were leaving the ship, I snapped a quick picture of my wife at the top of the gangway, with the historic downtown Skagway behind her. Later, when we were on the train climbing through the mountain pass, I looked at that photo and felt my blood run cold. She was in the photo, the woman. She was standing on the gangway directly behind my wife, so close she could have reached out and touched her. And for the first time, I could see her eyes clearly. They weren't looking at the camera anymore. They were looking at my wife's back, staring at her with an intensity that made me physically nauseous. "Don't look at the photos anymore," I told my wife when we got back to the ship that evening. "Just stop taking them. Stop looking." "What? Why?" I showed her the gangway picture. She went white. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she did something I didn't expect. She got angry. "No," she said firmly. "No, we're not going to let this ruin our anniversary. We're going to figure out what's happening." That evening, while the ship cruised toward Juneau, we went to the guest services desk. A young crew member with a name tag reading Sophia greeted us with a professional smile. "We need to ask about another passenger," my wife said, pulling out her phone and showing the atrium photo. "This woman. Can you tell us what cabin she's in?" Sophia looked at the photo, her smile faltering. She zoomed in, studying the woman's face, then shook her head. "I'm sorry, I don't recognize her. But we have over 2,000 passengers on board. Let me check with security." She picked up a phone and had a quiet conversation we couldn't hear. When she hung up, her expression was troubled. "Security is saying they'd need more information. A name, a cabin number. They can't search the passenger manifest by just a photo and..." She hesitated. "They're saying that dress doesn't match any of the formal night attire, and we don't really have passengers dressed like that during the day." "So you're saying she's not on the ship?" I said flatly. "I'm saying we'll look into it," Sophia replied. But I could see in her eyes she thought we were crazy. We didn't sleep well that night. Every sound in the corridor outside our cabin made us jump. Around 3 in the morning, I got up to use the bathroom. And when I came back, my wife was sitting up in bed, staring at her phone. "She's getting closer," she whispered. "In every photo, every single one. Look." She'd arranged all the photos in chronological order. In the first photo from departure day, the woman was maybe 20 feet away. By Tracy Arm, she was 10 feet away. In Skagway, she was inches behind my wife. The progression was undeniable, deliberate. "What happens when she gets to zero distance?" my wife asked, and neither of us wanted to answer that question. Day 5, we arrived in Juneau. We didn't take any photos. We barely left the cabin. My wife was convinced that if we stopped taking pictures, whatever this was would stop. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it didn't matter anymore. That something had been set in motion and we were just waiting for it to complete. That night was formal night. Our last night before the ship started the return journey south. We'd planned to go to the captain's reception, have a nice dinner, celebrate 10 years of marriage properly. Instead, we sat in our cabin, barely speaking, both of us checking the door lock every few minutes. Around midnight, my wife suddenly stood up. "I need to know," she said. "I need to see if she's real. If she's actually on this ship. How are you going to—" But she was already out the door. I followed her through the empty corridors, up the stairs to deck 11, where the observation lounge overlooked the bow. It was closed, dark, the chairs stacked. Through the windows, I could see the lights of Juneau Harbor growing distant as we departed. My wife pulled out her phone and opened the camera. She held it up, pointing it at the empty lounge, and took a photo. Then she looked at the screen. I watched the color drain from her face. "She's here," my wife whispered. "She's in the photo. She's in this room right now." I looked at the phone. The woman was there in the image, standing in the center of the dark lounge, that same hollow stare. But now there was something else in her expression. Recognition, satisfaction. "We need to leave," I said, grabbing my wife's arm. But as we turned toward the exit, my wife's phone buzzed. A notification. Someone had airdropped us a photo. She opened it without thinking. It was a photo of us, taken from inside our cabin. We were both in the frame, standing exactly where we were right now. But the photo showed us inside our stateroom, taken from the angle of someone standing at the foot of our bed. And in the background, reflected in the mirror above the dresser, was the woman in the blue dress. We ran. I don't remember the exact route we took back to our cabin, just the sound of our footsteps echoing in the empty corridors, my wife's ragged breathing, my own heart hammering in my chest. When we reached our door, I fumbled with the key card 3 times before getting it to work. The cabin was exactly as we'd left it. Nothing disturbed. Nothing moved. My wife went straight to the mirror above the dresser and stood in front of it, looking at her reflection. Then she opened her phone's camera again and pointed it at the mirror, looking at the screen instead of the reflection itself. "Oh God," she breathed. "Oh God, oh God." In the phone's camera view, the woman was there, standing directly behind my wife. So close they were almost touching. Her gray face inches from my wife's shoulder, her hollow eyes staring at the camera. But when I looked at the actual mirror, the real reflection, there was nothing. Just my wife, alone. My wife dropped the phone. It clattered on the floor and she stumbled backward into me. "She's been in our room this whole time," she said. "Every time we've been here, she's been here. We spent that night in the hallway. We didn't care what crew members thought when they walked past us huddled against the wall. We didn't care about anything except staying out of that cabin. When the sun finally came up and early morning joggers started appearing on the exterior decks, we went back to guest services. This time, a different crew member was there. An older man with manager on his name tag. We showed him everything, all the photos, the progression, the image that had been airdropped to us. He listened patiently, his expression carefully neutral. "I understand this is distressing," he said when we finished. "But I need you to understand. We have a complete passenger manifest. Every person on this ship is accounted for. We have their names, their cabin assignments, their identification documents. There is no one on board matching this description who isn't properly registered." "Then who is she?" my wife demanded. The manager was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Sometimes cameras pick up things our eyes don't see, especially in low light or with digital artifacts or—" "That's not what this is," I interrupted. "That's not what this is, and you know it." He didn't argue. He just gave us a look that told me we weren't the first passengers to come to him with a story like this. We couldn't get off the ship fast enough when we finally docked back in Seattle. We left half our belongings in the cabin. didn't wait for the organized disembarkation, just grabbed our essentials and pushed through the crowds to the gangway. On the pier, surrounded by hundreds of other passengers collecting their luggage, my wife finally let herself cry. "It's over," I told her. "We're off the ship. It's over." But it wasn't over. It isn't over. Because 3 days after we got home, I was going through my email and found a message from the cruise line's automated photo service. Subject line: "Your anniversary memories." I opened it, even though I knew I shouldn't. There were photos attached that we never took. Professional shots from angles we were never at. My wife and I in our cabin, in the dining room, on the deck. In every single photo, the woman in the blue dress was there with us, getting closer and closer. And in the final image, one that showed us sleeping in our bed on what must have been that last night, she was standing at the foot of the bed, looking down at us, finally close enough to touch. But here's what made my wife pack a bag and leave our house. In that final photo, the woman wasn't staring at the camera anymore. She was smiling, and in her hand, she was holding a phone, taking a photo of us. We still don't know who she was. The cruise line deleted our complaint emails. The photos vanished from my wife's phone 3 days after we got home, just disappeared, along with all evidence they ever existed. We're not together anymore. My wife moved across the country, and the last time we spoke, she told me she still sees that woman sometimes. In the background of photos other people take, in reflections that don't quite match reality. Always watching, always waiting, always getting closer. I've never been on a cruise since. I probably never will again. Because I know what we brought back with us from that anniversary trip wasn't just memories. It was something that learned our faces, learned our patterns, learned how to exist in the spaces between what we see and what cameras capture. And I think it's still out there. Somewhere in those photos that float endlessly through the digital void, waiting for the right moment to step through from the other side. Sometimes late at night, my phone buzzes with an airdrop notification from an unknown source. I never open them anymore. I don't need to see what's in those photos. I already know who's staring back. I'd always thought I knew my husband completely after 25 years of marriage. When you've spent a quarter century with someone, you believe there are no secrets left, no hidden corners of their mind you haven't explored. Our anniversary cruise through the San Juan Islands was supposed to be a celebration of that intimacy. 4 days on a boutique ship looping from Victoria through the misty archipelago where we'd honeymooned. Instead, it became the voyage where I discovered I'd been sleeping next to a stranger. The ship was smaller than the massive cruise liners you see in commercials, holding maybe 200 passengers, with polished wood railings and an old-world charm that felt romantic when we boarded. We departed Victoria Harbor on a Tuesday afternoon, the Olympic Mountains visible in the distance as we sailed into the maze of islands. The first day was perfect. We explored the ship, had dinner watching the sunset paint the water gold, made love in our cabin with the curtains open to the stars. Everything a 25th anniversary should be. It was the second night when things shifted. I woke around 2 in the morning to find his side of the bed empty. The cabin was dark, except for the faint glow of safety lights in the corridor, visible under our door. I assumed he'd gone to the bathroom or stepped out on our small balcony for air. But when I checked both places, he wasn't there. A spike of worry went through me. Irrational, maybe. But we were on a ship in the middle of the Salish Sea, and the railing seemed suddenly very low. I pulled on a robe and slipped into the corridor. Most of the ship was dark at this hour, the carpeted hallways empty and eerily quiet. I checked the observation lounge on Deck 5, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bow. Empty. The bar was closed, chairs upside down on tables. I was starting to genuinely panic when I saw light seeping from beneath a door at the far end of the corridor. A door I hadn't noticed before, tucked away behind a service alcove. The sign on the door read, "Crew only, restricted access," but it was propped open about 6 inches. Through the gap, I could hear my husband's voice. He was speaking in a low, earnest tone, the way he talked when he was having a serious conversation. Relief flooded through me. He must have struck up a friendship with one of the crew members, couldn't sleep, decided to chat. I was about to announce myself when I heard him say something that made me freeze. I know it must have been terrifying when the engines failed. All that way from shore, no radio contact. "Did you think you'd make it back?" There was a pause, a long one. Then my husband spoke again. "The cold must have been unbearable. I can't imagine what those last hours were like." I pushed the door open wider. The room beyond was some kind of old observation deck, clearly no longer in use. The furniture was covered in sheets, the windows filmed with salt residue. In the center of the room, my husband had arranged 6 chairs in a semicircle. He was sitting in the 7th chair, facing the empty ones, speaking to them as if they were occupied. "How long before the hypothermia set in?" he asked the empty air. "Did you try to swim for it, or did you stay with the wreckage?" My blood turned to ice water. Not because of what he was saying, exactly, but because of how he was saying it, with genuine curiosity and compassion, as if he was receiving answers I couldn't hear. "Honey?" My voice came out as a whisper. He turned to look at me, and for just a second, I swear this is true, I didn't recognize his eyes. They were distant, clouded, looking at me but not seeing me. Then he blinked. My husband was back. "What are you doing up?" he asked, standing quickly. His tone was normal, casual even. "What am I doing up? You're the one sitting in a restricted area talking to empty chairs at 2 a.m. He looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time. Confusion crossed his face. I came up here. I don't remember leaving the cabin." "You don't remember? You've been having a full conversation. You were asking someone about engine failure and hypothermia." His face went pale. "I was sleepwalking," he said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. "I must have been sleepwalking. I used to do it as a kid, you know that." I did know that. But this hadn't looked like sleepwalking. This had looked like someone fully awake, fully engaged in dialogue with people who weren't there. We went back to the cabin. He apologized, promised to see a doctor when we got home, blamed it on stress at work and too much wine at dinner. I wanted to believe him. I tried to sleep, but I kept seeing those empty chairs arranged in that careful semicircle, kept hearing his voice asking questions about drowning and cold. The next day, we docked at Friday Harbor on San Juan Island. The weather had shifted overnight. Dense fog rolled across the water, turning the marina into something ghostly and indistinct. We went ashore for a few hours, walked through the small downtown, visited the whale museum. My husband seemed perfectly normal. We had lunch at a restaurant overlooking the ferry terminal, and he told me stories about cases he was working on, laughed at my jokes, held my hand across the table. By mid-afternoon, I'd convinced myself the previous night had been exactly what he said. A strange episode of sleepwalking brought on by stress. But then the fog seemed to follow us. When we returned to the ship that evening, It had completely enveloped the vessel. You couldn't see 20 feet in any direction. The ship's horn sounded at regular intervals as we navigated through the channels between islands, a mournful sound that seemed to summon something from the depths. I woke again at 2:17 in the morning. Again, his side of the bed was empty. This time I didn't bother checking the cabin. I went straight to that restricted room on deck 5. The door was propped open again, and inside, my husband had arranged the chairs. But there were more of them now. 11 chairs in a semicircle, and he was moving among them, adjusting their positions with meticulous care. "You would have been sitting here," he was saying to an empty chair near the window. "You had a better view from this side, didn't you? You saw the rocks before anyone else." "Stop it," I said from the doorway. My voice was sharper than I intended. "Stop talking to them." He looked at me, and again there was that moment of non-recognition, that clouded distance in his eyes. "They need to tell their story," he said simply. "No one's ever listened." "Who needs to tell their story? There's no one here." "The passengers," he said, as if it were obvious. "From the maiden voyage, when the ship hit the rocks off Patas Island." Something very cold settled in my chest. "What are you talking about? What maiden voyage?" "This ship," he said patiently. 43 years ago. They hit submerged rocks in the fog. 11 passengers drowned before the Coast Guard arrived. They've been trying to tell someone what happened, but no one listens anymore. I grabbed his arm. "This ship is 12 years old. I looked it up before we booked. There was no maiden voyage accident. You're having some kind of episode. We need to get you to the ship's medical center right now." He pulled his arm free, not roughly, but with absolute certainty. "I can't leave yet. They haven't finished." That's when I ran. I went straight to the purser's desk on deck 3, where a night officer sat doing paperwork. I told him everything. My husband in the restricted room, the chairs, the conversations with people who weren't there. The officer listened with growing concern, then made a call. 5 minutes later, 2 security personnel accompanied me back to that observation deck. The door was closed. When we opened it, my husband was sitting alone in one of the chairs, asleep. The other chairs were stacked neatly against the wall, exactly as they must have been stored. The room looked undisturbed, as if no one had arranged furniture or held conversations with ghosts. One of the security officers gently woke my husband. He was disoriented, confused about where he was. They helped him back to our cabin, asked if he needed medical attention. He declined, embarrassed, insisting he was fine. After they left, he apologized profusely. "I think something's wrong with me," he said quietly. "I don't remember any of this. It's like someone else is controlling me." The next morning, our last day aboard, I went to the ship's small library and used their computer. I searched for information about the ship, accidents, maiden voyages. Nothing. Then I searched for Patos Island shipwreck and San Juan Islands passenger deaths. What I found made my hands shake. 43 years ago, a small cruise vessel called the Island Princess had struck rocks in heavy fog near Patos Island. 11 passengers had drowned. The ship had been salvaged, extensively renovated, and eventually sold to a boutique cruise line. It had been renamed twice since then. I found photos of the original vessel, the woodwork, the layout. It was the same ship we were on right now. My husband had no way of knowing this. Neither of us had researched the ship's history beyond confirming it had good reviews and safety ratings. Yet somehow, he'd known. Not just known, he'd channeled it, given voice to it. I found him on the observation deck, The regular one, the one passengers were allowed to use, staring out at the fog that still clung to everything. I sat beside him and showed him what I'd found on my phone. He read it in silence. When he finished, tears were streaming down his face. "I can hear them sometimes," he whispered. "When I'm asleep, they talk to me. They show me what happened. The grinding sound when the hull hit the rocks, the water rushing in, how cold it was, how long it took." He looked at me, and his eyes were devastated. "I think I've been hearing them for years. Little whispers I thought were dreams. But on this ship, they're so much louder." We tried to get off at the next port, but there was no next port. The ship was returning directly to Victoria, and we were in the middle of the crossing. I held him as he slept, or tried to sleep, his body twitching with dreams I couldn't see. Around midnight, he stopped breathing. Not stopped permanently, just paused for 5 seconds, then 10, his chest utterly still. Then he'd gasp and breathe normally for a minute before the pause happened again. Sleep apnea, maybe, except he'd never had it before. I watched his face in the dim cabin light and saw his lips moving, forming words without sound. At dawn, we docked in Victoria. My husband seemed better once we were off the ship, more present, more himself. We didn't talk about it on the drive home. We didn't talk about it for 3 days. Then the envelope arrived. It was from the cruise line security department, marked confidential. Inside was a thumb drive and a letter explaining that given my report about my husband's nighttime activities, they'd reviewed security footage from the relevant areas. The letter was professional, clinical. It suggested we might want to seek medical evaluation. I watched the footage alone while my husband was at work. The camera covered the corridor outside that restricted observation deck. The timestamp showed the first night, 2:14 in the morning. I watched my husband walk down the corridor, open the door, and go inside. The camera angle didn't show the interior of the room, just the corridor outside. For 6 minutes, nothing happened. Then I appeared in the frame, found the open door, went inside. The footage showed our return to the cabin several minutes later. The second night's footage was longer. My husband arrived at 2:09 in the morning. He went inside. At 2:15, the door opened again. But no one came out. The door just stood open. For the next 43 minutes, I could see shadows moving inside the room, crossing back and forth in front of the door. Not one shadow, multiple shadows, at least 8 or 9 distinct silhouettes, all moving independently. At 2:58, the shadows stopped moving. The door closed on its own. I watched it swing shut with no one touching it. At 3:03, I appeared in the frame with the 2 security officers. We went inside and found my husband alone. But here's what made me eject the thumb drive and lock it in a drawer where I've never looked at it again. Just before the door closed on its own, just for a second, I saw faces. Pressed against the gap in the doorway, looking out at the camera. Pale, waterlogged faces with dark hollows for eyes. 11 of them, crowded together, staring at the lens with expressions that might have been gratitude or might have been hunger. My husband doesn't remember any of it. He's been to 3 different doctors, had brain scans and sleep studies. Everything comes back normal. The episode stopped after we left the ship, and he insists he feels fine. But sometimes I wake at night and watch him sleeping, and I wonder what he's hearing in his dreams. What conversations he's having with people who drowned 43 years ago in cold water and fog. We haven't celebrated an anniversary since. We don't talk about taking another cruise. Most nights, everything is normal. We watch television, have dinner, go to bed like any couple married for 25 years. But sometimes, late at night, I hear him whisper things in his sleep. Fragments of sentences that sound like answers to questions I can't hear. And I know they're still talking to him, those passengers who died when their ship hit the rocks. They found someone who could finally listen, and they're not letting go. Last week, I found him in our living room at 3 in the morning. He'd arranged chairs in a semicircle, 7 of them. He was sitting in the 8th, having a conversation with empty seats, asking about the fog and the cold and how long it took before the water filled their lungs. I didn't wake him. I just stood in the doorway and watched, wondering how many more chairs he'd need before all the voices in his head had places to sit. Wondering if someday there'd be a chair arranged for me, and whether I'd be sitting in it or simply haunting it. The doctors say he's fine. The tests say there's nothing wrong. But I know better. My husband came back from that anniversary cruise with passengers who never disembarked, and they're still sailing with him, speaking to him in the darkest hours, telling him stories about drowning that will never end. And the most terrifying part? Sometimes now, late at night in our quiet house, I think I can hear them too. Just whispers at the edge of hearing, like waves against a hull, like voices calling from cold water, asking if anyone's listening, asking if we remember what happened when the fog rolled in and the ship ran aground and the sea claimed 11 souls who've been trying to tell their story ever since. I'd always thought I knew my husband completely. I was wrong. Because the man who came back from the San Juan Islands isn't just my husband anymore. He's a vessel for voices that should have fallen silent 4 decades ago, and I don't know how to save him from drowning in their stories. I was 24 years old when I married the love of my life, and exactly 1 year later, we boarded a cruise ship in Vancouver, bound for Ketchikan to celebrate our first anniversary. The 5-day voyage through the Inside Passage was supposed to be romantic. Glaciers, wildlife, intimate dinners. Instead, it became something I still can't fully explain to anyone, including the therapists I've seen since. We departed on a Wednesday evening, the ship threading through the islands north of Vancouver as the sun set behind the coastal mountains. Our cabin was on deck 8, starboard side, with a small porthole that looked out onto the ocean. Nothing fancy, but it was ours, and we were happy. That first night, we had dinner in the main dining room, then walked the deck under the stars before falling asleep to the gentle rocking of the ship. I woke up around 6 in the morning, needing to use the bathroom. The cabin was dark, my husband still asleep beside me. I swung my legs out of bed and immediately felt something wrong. The air felt thick, oppressive. I reached for the light switch. When the lights came on, I saw them. Symbols, drawn on the mirror above the small sink in thick condensation, as if someone had dragged their finger through steam. Except the mirror was cold to the touch, and we'd been asleep for 7 hours. The symbols were intricate. Circular patterns with angular lines radiating outward, characters that looked almost like language, but weren't anything I recognized. "What the hell?" my husband mumbled, sitting up and seeing my expression. I pointed at the mirror. He stared at the symbols for a long moment, then got up and tried to wipe them away. They smeared but didn't disappear completely, leaving faint traces on the glass. "Someone was in here," I whispered. "Someone came into our cabin while we were sleeping." He went to the door. That's when we both saw it. The door handle, from the inside, looked normal. But there was something off about how the door sat in its frame. My husband pulled the handle. The door didn't budge. "It's locked," he said, pulling harder, "or stuck." "It's not stuck," I pointed to the gap between the door and the frame, where a thin silver chain was visible through the crack. Someone chained us in, from the outside. The panic hit me like a physical blow. We were locked in our cabin. Someone had been inside while we slept, drawn bizarre symbols on our mirror, then chained us in from the corridor. My husband immediately grabbed the phone to call guest services. He held it to his ear, waited, then pressed buttons repeatedly. It's dead. No dial tone. He tried his cell phone. No signal. We were in the middle of the inside passage, miles from any tower. I tried mine. Same result. We'll knock, I said, my voice shaking. Someone will hear us. Housekeeping makes rounds early. We pounded on the door. We shouted. We banged on the walls, hoping to wake passengers in adjacent cabins. For 20 minutes, we made as much noise as we could. No one came. No one answered. The corridor outside remained silent. Then my husband noticed something else. He pointed to the porthole. Look at the door across the hall. I pressed my face against the small window. Through it, I could see the cabin door directly opposite ours. It also had a chain looped through the handle from the outside, secured to a bracket that I didn't remember seeing in the corridor before. As I watched, I noticed the door 3 cabins down had the same chain, and the one beyond that. They've chained multiple cabins, I said slowly. This whole section of the deck. We spent the next hour searching our cabin for anything we could use. Scissors from the toiletry kit, a hanger we might bend to reach through the crack, anything. Nothing worked. The chain was thick, the gap too narrow. Around 8 in the morning, we heard footsteps in the corridor. Multiple people walking past, voices muffled through the door. Help, we screamed. We're locked in. Help us. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice, female, called back. Don't bother. They won't let us out. We've been trying for 3 days. 3 days. The words made no sense. My husband and I looked at each other. What do you mean 3 days? He shouted through the door. We just boarded yesterday. A pause. Then another voice, male this time, older. No one just boarded. The ship's been in quarantine since we left port, since Monday. They've had us locked up down here the whole time. Today is Thursday, I said, my voice rising. We departed Wednesday evening. We had dinner last night in the dining room. We saw other passengers. Silence from the corridor. Then the woman's voice again, quieter now. It's Thursday? You're sure it's Thursday? Yes, my husband said. What day do you think it is? Thursday, the woman said. But we've been locked in here since Monday. That's 4 days. We've been in here 4 days. The math didn't work. If they'd been locked in since Monday, and today was Thursday, that was only 3 days. But the way the woman said it, the confusion in her voice, sent ice through my veins. Why are we quarantined? I called out. Is there an illness outbreak? What's happening? No one told us anything, the older man replied. Crew members in hazmat suits brought us food once. I think it was yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago. They didn't speak. They just slid trays through a gap at the floor and left. We tried to ask questions, but they wouldn't answer. I looked down. Our door had no gap at the floor. It was flush with the threshold. Throughout that day, we shouted back and forth with the other passengers. There were at least 6 other cabins chained on our corridor. All the passengers told the same story. They'd woken up locked in, symbols drawn on their mirrors, no explanation. But their timelines made no sense. One couple insisted they'd been locked in for 5 days, even though the cruise had only departed 3 days ago. An elderly woman in the cabin next to ours said she'd been in quarantine for a week, though she'd only booked a 5-day cruise. Worse, when I pressed my face to the porthole at certain angles, I could see reflections in the window across the hall. I saw the couple who claimed they'd been locked in for 5 days. The woman looked gaunt, her cheeks hollow. The man's eyes were sunken with dark circles. They looked like people who hadn't eaten properly in days. But we'd seen them last night. I was certain. We'd passed them in the corridor before dinner. They'd been smiling, looked healthy, wished us happy anniversary. Now, less than 12 hours later, they looked like they'd been starving for a week. Around noon, a tray of food appeared. I didn't see it happen. One moment the corridor outside our door was empty. The next, there was a covered tray sitting in the hallway visible through the porthole. No crew member, no sound of footsteps. It just appeared. "How are we supposed to get that?" my husband said. "We're locked in." But then we heard the chain rattle. Through the gap in the door, I watched it loosen and fall away, clattering to the floor. The door opened an inch. My husband pulled it fully open. The tray sat there, steam rising from under the metal cover. Down the corridor, other doors were open now too. Other passengers emerging cautiously, all of them looking at trays that had appeared outside their rooms. The couple across from us came out, and I gasped. Up close, they looked even worse. Skeletal, their clothes hanging loose, their movements slow and weak. The woman had sores at the corners of her mouth. The man's hands shook as he bent to pick up his tray. "What happened to you?" I asked. "You were fine last night." They both looked at me with expressions of utter confusion. "We saw you last week," the woman whispered. "Before the quarantine started, you were boarding. We wished you well." "That was yesterday," I insisted, but my voice wavered. My husband grabbed my arm. "Look at them. Really look. That's not 1 day of malnutrition. That's not possible." I had no answer. We took our tray back into the cabin. The food was normal: eggs, toast, fruit. We ate because we were hungry, though part of me screamed not to. Afterward, my husband tried to explore the corridor, but we only made it 10 feet before we encountered yellow quarantine tape blocking access to the stairwell. Warning signs read, "Biohazard, no entry, authorized personnel only." We went back to our cabin. The door remained open, but somehow that felt more threatening than being locked in. Around 3 in the afternoon, I tried the phone again. This time it rang. A voice answered, flat, emotionless. "Guest services." "Why are we quarantined?" I demanded. "What's happening on this ship?" "Deck 8 is under temporary containment protocols. Please remain in your designated area. Food will be provided." "Containment for what? What protocols? Who authorized this?" "Please remain in your designated area." The line went dead. That evening, the doors chained themselves. We watched it happen through the porthole. The chain, lying on the corridor floor, suddenly lifted as if pulled by invisible hands and threaded itself through our door handle, locking into place. No person touched it. It just moved on its own. We spent the second night trapped again. I barely slept. When I did, I dreamed of symbols, the same ones from our mirror, spreading across walls, across skin, burning themselves into my vision. I woke gasping to find my husband sitting up, staring at the mirror. New symbols had appeared, different ones, more complex. "I watched them form," he whispered. The condensation just appeared and the symbols drew themselves. No one touched the mirror. On the third day, at least I think it was the third day, time was becoming fluid and unreliable. The food stopped coming. We had half a bottle of water left. The couple across the hall looked barely conscious when their door opened briefly. The elderly woman next door was crying, begging for help in a voice so weak it was almost inaudible. And I was starting to feel it too. Hunger, yes, but more than that. Weakness that felt disproportionate to one day without food. When I looked at my reflection in the symbol-covered mirror, I looked thinner. My eyes looked darker. My husband's face had that same hollow quality the other passengers had. "Time isn't moving right in here," I said. "However long we think we've been locked up, it's longer. Our bodies know it, even if our minds don't." He didn't argue. He just pulled me close. On what I believed was the 4th day, though it might have been the 10th or the 20th, I had no way to know anymore. The door opened. No tray appeared. The chain just fell away, and the door swung wide. Down the corridor, all the other doors opened simultaneously. A crew member stood at the end of the hallway, wearing normal uniform, no hazmat suit. She looked concerned. "Are you all right?" she called out. "We've been trying to reach you on the phone. Why haven't you been attending meals?" My husband stared at her. "We've been locked in, quarantined, for days." The crew member's expression shifted to confusion. "Locked in? Sir, there's been no quarantine. And you missed dinner last night, but that's the only meal you've skipped since boarding." "That's impossible," I said, stepping into the corridor. The couple across from us emerged too, and the crew member's face went pale. "My God," she breathed. "What happened to you? You need medical attention immediately." They took all of us to the medical center. The ship's doctor examined us with growing alarm. We were all severely dehydrated, malnourished, our body conditions consistent with 7 to 10 days of minimal food and water intake. But according to ship records, we'd only been aboard for 2 days. We'd only missed one dinner. The couple across from us had to be hospitalized when we reached Prince Rupert. The elderly woman died 3 days after we docked in Ketchikan. Organ failure, the doctors said, caused by prolonged starvation. But she'd been on the ship for 4 days. Only 4 days. None of us had an explanation. The ship found no evidence of chains, no quarantine order, no record of any containment protocols. The symbols on our mirrors weren't in any photographs. They simply didn't appear on camera, though all of us saw them clearly. My husband and I are still together, but our first anniversary cruise destroyed something in both of us. We both still lose time sometimes. I'll think an hour has passed and discover it's been 6. He'll swear we've been somewhere for days when it's only been hours. Our doctors have no explanation. And sometimes, late at night, I see symbols forming in condensation on mirrors, on windows, on any surface where moisture collects. They're always there for just a moment before fading, but I know what they mean now. They're counting, measuring, marking how much time they took from us on Deck 8 in that quarantine that never officially existed. We never made it to Ketchikan on that cruise. The ship diverted to get us medical help. But somewhere in the inside passage, in the space between one day and the next, time opened up and swallowed days of our lives. And I think it's still hungry. I think whatever marked us with those symbols isn't finished. Because sometimes I wake up and my husband looks older. Not much, just slightly. More gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes. And he looks at me the same way, with growing fear in his expression. We're aging faster than we should. Days are passing that we don't experience, stolen by whatever we encountered on that ship. Our first anniversary cruise lasted 5 days according to the calendar. But in the span between boarding and disembarkation, we lost weeks of our lives in a quarantine no one else remembers. locked in by chains that left no evidence, starved in a timeline that didn't match reality. And we're still locked in, somehow. Still quarantined in a space where time moves differently. Still marked by symbols that counted the days they took and promised to take more. Still waiting for the door to open and let us back into the world where minutes are minutes and days are just days. Not something that can be stretched and stolen and spent without us even knowing they're gone. I've been married 15 years, and I thought I knew what stability felt like until our anniversary cruise from Seattle to Sitka turned into a nightmare where time became meaningless and reality bent in ways I still can't explain. My husband noticed something wrong on day 3. We'd departed Seattle on Saturday, but when he checked the ship's daily newsletter that Monday morning, it said we were approaching Tracy Arm Fjord for glacier viewing. That's scheduled for day 5, he said, comparing it to our printed itinerary. We should be docking in Ketchikan today. I dismissed it as a route change. Ships adjusted for weather all the time. We went to the observation deck and watched the fjord. Sheer granite walls, cascading waterfalls, massive blue glaciers. The scenery was breathtaking, and I took dozens of photos. The next morning's newsletter announced we were approaching Tracy Arm Fjord. Again. We did this yesterday, my husband insisted, pointing at the same granite cliffs, the same waterfalls. This is the exact same place. I wanted to argue, but the landscape looked identical. Still, fjords probably looked similar, didn't they? He approached a crew member. What day is it? Tuesday, sir. We were here yesterday, in Tracy Arm. The officer's smile faltered. Sir, this is our first visit to Tracy Arm this voyage. My husband showed him photos on his phone from the previous day. Same location, time-stamped 24 hours earlier. The officer studied them with visible confusion before excusing himself. You're confusing people, I said quietly. Maybe you're mixing up dates. It happens on cruises. But doubt crept into my voice when I checked my watch. It showed Wednesday. My phone showed Tuesday. The ship's newsletter showed Tuesday. None of it matched. That's when the real disorientation began. My husband obsessed over tracking days, checking every clock he could find. Ship clocks showed Tuesday. His watch showed Monday. My phone showed Tuesday. The cabin TV displayed Wednesday. The daily newsletter kept announcing Tracy Arm Fjord, which we seemed to pass daily, though crew members always insisted it was our first visit. On day 6, or what should have been day 6, we were supposed to dock in Sitka. The newsletter confirmed it. But when the captain announced our arrival over the loudspeaker, he said Juneau, not Sitka. My husband pulled out the newsletter. It now read, Juneau, Alaska, in bold letters. I could have sworn it said Sitka minutes earlier. Dense fog rolled in. Through it, I could barely see shapes that might have been buildings. We sat at the dock for 2 hours while the captain made announcements about weather delays. Finally, he announced we couldn't dock and would proceed to the next port. We never touched land. And the next day's newsletter never mentioned Juneau at all, as if it had been erased from the itinerary. My husband stopped sleeping. I'd wake at 3 in the morning to find him frantically writing notes, comparing time sources. His list looked like evidence of madness. Ship clock, Thursday. My watch, Wednesday. Her phone, Friday. TV, Tuesday. My phone, Saturday. We've been on this ship 11 days, he said when I found him. Everyone says it's been 5 or 6 or 7, but I've counted 11 days. To humor him, I started paying attention. That's when I noticed too. A glacier we'd photographed on day 3. I'd captured a distinctive horn-shaped peak in the background. On day 8, we passed another glacier. When I compared the photos that evening, They were identical. Not similar. Identical. Same peak, same ice formations, same everything. "We need to get off at the next port," my husband said when I showed him. At Skagway, we went to the gangway determined to disembark permanently. The crew members scanned our cards and smiled. "Enjoying the cruise?" "We're leaving," my husband said. "Not coming back." "You're free to disembark, sir. The gangway is ready." We walked down the metal grating. Halfway down, I noticed fog had rolled in again, thick and impenetrable. At the bottom, where the dock should have been, there was only gray emptiness. No buildings, no harbor, no land, just fog. "Where's the dock?" my husband called back. "Right there, sir. Step carefully." Other passengers walked past us, stepping off the gangway into the fog and vanishing completely. Not walking away, vanishing, swallowed by mist. My husband extended his foot past the edge. It disappeared into gray, as if testing a surface I couldn't see. "There's nothing here," he said, pulling back. "No dock, nothing." "Sir, you're blocking the gangway. Please disembark or return to the ship." Behind us, passengers were lining up, looking annoyed. We stood frozen, staring at the void where a port should have been. Finally, we went back aboard. That evening, I saw those same passengers in the dining room. The couple who'd been behind us, the man who'd complained about the delay. When I asked how Skagway was, they looked confused. "We didn't go ashore," the wife said. "Too foggy." "But I saw you get off. You walked down the gangway." She exchanged glances with her husband. "We stayed on the ship. Maybe you saw someone else." But it had been them. I was certain. My husband and I stopped leaving our cabin except for meals. We tried finding patterns, but every answer led to more questions. The 8-day cruise felt like 3 weeks, though neither of us could account for all the days. Time had become elastic, stretching and compressing unpredictably. On the final day, we packed our bags, ready to return to Seattle. The captain announced arrival at 6 a.m. At 6 a.m., I looked out our porthole. Only fog. Dense, gray, impenetrable. The captain's voice. "We're experiencing delays due to weather. We expect to dock shortly." At noon, my husband went to guest services. "When are we docking?" The agent checked her computer. "We docked at 6 a.m., sir. We're currently in Seattle Port." "Looky, outside. That's fog, not Seattle." The agent looked without blinking. "Yes, sir. Seattle is quite foggy this morning, but we're docked. You're free to disembark." We went to the gangway. Same fog, same invisible dock. Passengers streaming off, vanishing into gray. We stood there, unable to make ourselves step into that void. Hours passed. The ship announced the cruise over, asked all passengers to disembark. But every exit led to the same fog, the same nothingness. Eventually, crew members came to our cabin. "You need to leave the ship. The cruise has ended." "Show me Seattle," my husband demanded. "Show me solid ground." The crew members exchanged looks. One radioed for the ship's doctor, who arrived speaking in soothing tones about what we were experiencing. They think we're crazy. Maybe we are. Because right now, we're still on this ship. The cruise supposedly ended days ago, or was it weeks? The calendar on my phone says October. We boarded in August. My watch says December. Ship clocks say September. Other passengers have supposedly departed, but I still see them in corridors, the same faces from day one. They smile, wish us well, ask how we're enjoying the cruise. The dining room still serves meals. Our cabin is still cleaned daily. Everything continues normally, except we never reach port. We never see land. Just endless gray fog. My husband stopped checking dates. His notebook of contradictory times sits abandoned. We tried the gangway again yesterday or last month, and it still leads nowhere. Just fog. Just emptiness. The crew still insists we're in port, that we can leave anytime. But there's nowhere to leave to. Only the ship and fog and endless circling through waters that don't lead anywhere. I don't know how long we've been aboard. I don't know if we'll ever leave. I don't even know what day it is. All I know is we booked an 8-day anniversary cruise from Seattle to Sitka. And somewhere along the way, we sailed out of time itself into a loop we can't escape. Sometimes, I wonder if we ever left Seattle at all. Sometimes I wonder if we're still at the dock, stuck in that first moment of departure, reliving the same voyage infinitely. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder if we stepped into that fog long ago and everything since has been the dream of people who vanished between one moment and the next. My husband just asked what day it is. I have no answer. The ship's clock says Tuesday. My phone says Saturday. The newsletter says day 5. But I've watched the sun rise and set so many times, I've lost count. We're still here, still sailing, still searching for a port that might not exist, celebrating an anniversary that might never end, trapped on a cruise through waters where time forgot how to flow forward and left us circling forever in the fog. I'd always imagined our 5th anniversary would be magical. So when my partner surprised me with a 6-day expedition cruise through Glacier Bay from Juneau, I was thrilled. The small ship only carried 80 passengers, promising an intimate experience exploring one of Alaska's most pristine wilderness areas. What I didn't expect was that our cabin assignment would place us directly beneath the one room on the ship no one wants to think about. We boarded in Juneau on a gray Tuesday afternoon, the kind of weather where low clouds blend seamlessly with the water. The ship was beautiful in an understated way. All polished wood and brass fixtures, clearly designed for serious nature enthusiasts rather than party cruisers. At check-in, we received our cabin assignment. Room 47, Deck 2. The crew member who handed us our key cards hesitated when she saw the number. Just for a second, her professional smile wavered. She opened her mouth as if to say something, then seemed to think better of it. "Is there a problem?" I asked. "No problem at all," she replied, but she wouldn't make eye contact. "Enjoy your voyage." Our cabin was at the end of a narrow corridor on Deck 2, the lowest passenger deck. As we approached, I noticed the deck numbers on the walls: 39, 41, 43, 45. Then our room, 47. No even numbers. No 40, 42, 44, or 46. I mentioned it to my partner, but they were already unlocking the door, excited to see our accommodations. The cabin was small but comfortable. Bunk beds against one wall, a tiny bathroom, a porthole looking out onto slate gray water. Nothing remarkable. We unpacked, changed for dinner, and headed to the dining room to meet our fellow passengers. The first night passed uneventfully. We ate well, met some interesting people, and fell asleep easily to the gentle rocking of the ship. I woke around 3 in the morning to a sound from above. A dragging noise like something heavy being pulled across the floor. Then voices, muffled but urgent. After a few minutes, silence returned, and I drifted back to sleep. The next morning at breakfast, I mentioned it casually to a couple at our table. "Anyone else hear strange noises last night? Something dragging around above us?" They exchanged glances. "We're in cabin 35, the husband said. "Deck 1, didn't hear anything." "What deck are you on?" the wife asked. "Deck 2, room 47. Both of them went quiet. The wife set down her coffee cup carefully. "Room 47, she repeated. I didn't know the ship had a room 47. Sure it does. End of the corridor, starboard side. The husband pulled out his ship map, the kind they give you at check-in showing deck layouts. He studied it, frowning. According to this, Deck 2 passenger cabins only go up to 45. There's no 47 listed. I looked at the map. He was right. Room 47 wasn't marked. The corridor where our cabin sat was labeled Crew Access Only on the diagram. Must be a misprint, my partner said. Obviously the room exists. We're staying in it. But something cold had settled in my stomach. I excused myself and went to find a crew member. A steward was cleaning the observation lounge, and I approached him. Quick question about our cabin assignment. We're in room 47 on deck 2. Is that a passenger cabin or crew quarters? His face changed. The color drained from it so fast, I thought he might faint. Room 47, he said quietly. You're staying in room 47. Yes. Is that a problem? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked, have you noticed anything unusual? Like what? Noises, smells, anything that seems wrong. The dragging sounds from the previous night came back to me. There was dragging overhead, around 3 a.m. What's above our cabin? The steward looked around to make sure no one else was listening. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. You need to request a cabin change. Today, don't sleep there again. Why? What's above us? He hesitated, then said simply, the morgue. The word hit me like a physical blow. The morgue. The ship's morgue was directly above our cabin. That's what I'd heard. Someone being moved in the morgue, a body being dragged. But no one's died on this cruise, I said, my voice rising. We only left yesterday. Who's in the morgue? The steward shook his head. I've said too much already. Please, just request a different cabin. I found my partner and told them everything. They wanted to laugh it off, but I saw uncertainty in their eyes. We went to guest services together to request a cabin change. The woman at the desk listened to our request with a neutral expression. I'm afraid we're completely booked. This is a small ship and we're at capacity. There are no other cabins available. Then we'll bunk with someone else. Share a room. Anything. I'm sorry, that's not possible. If you're uncomfortable with your accommodations, you can disembark at our next port stop in 2 days. 2 more nights in room 47. 2 more nights sleeping beneath the morgue. That evening, we delayed going to our cabin as long as possible. We stayed in the lounge until nearly midnight, then walked the corridors aimlessly. Finally, exhausted, we had no choice but to return to room 47. The cabin looked exactly as we'd left it. Nothing was disturbed, but there was a smell. Faint, but unmistakable. Sweet and sickly, like flowers left too long in stagnant water. My partner claimed they couldn't smell it, but I saw them wrinkle their nose. We climbed into our bunks. I took the top, thinking being farther from the floor might somehow help. Around 2:30 in the morning, the sounds started again. Dragging, scraping, footsteps overhead. Then new sounds. Muffled crying, soft and broken, like someone sobbing through their hands. I leaned over the edge of my bunk. Do you hear that? Yes, my partner whispered from below. Someone's crying, in the morgue. The crying continued for nearly an hour. Desperate, anguished weeping that made my chest ache. At one point, I heard words, indistinct but definitely words, someone speaking or pleading. Then silence, sudden and complete, like a door closing. In the morning, we looked awful. Neither of us had slept more than an hour. At breakfast, We tried asking other passengers if anyone had died on the ship. Everyone said no. The voyage had been completely uneventful. No medical emergencies, no accidents, nothing. But that day during our excursion to Marjorie Glacier, I noticed something. The ship's crew kept doing head counts, obsessively, before we boarded the Zodiac boats when we returned during the Glacier viewing. Counting and recounting, conferring in tight groups, their expressions worried. "Why do they keep counting us?" I asked a naturalist guide. She looked uncomfortable. "Standard safety protocol, making sure no one falls overboard. But they've counted us 6 times in the last hour." She didn't respond, just moved away to help another passenger. That night, our 3rd night in room 47, I couldn't make myself go back to the cabin. We sat in the lounge until a crew member politely but firmly told us all public areas were closing for the night. We had no choice. The smell in the cabin was stronger, not overwhelming, but definitely present. That same sickly sweet odor, now with an undertone of something chemical, like disinfectant trying to mask decay. At exactly 3 a.m., the dragging started. But this time, it was different. Multiple sources. Several heavy objects being moved simultaneously overhead, scraping across metal. Then voices. Many voices, urgent and low. I heard equipment rolling, metal clanking, what sounded like zippers. "How many bodies are they processing up there?" My partner whispered. I'd been wondering the same thing. The sound suggested significant activity. This wasn't the quiet storage of a single deceased passenger. This was something larger. Unable to bear it anymore, I climbed down from my bunk. "I'm going to look. I need to see what's in that morgue." "That's insane. You can't just..." But I was already out the door. The corridor was empty and dimly lit. I found the stairwell and climbed to deck 3. According to the layout, the morgue should be accessible from this level, near the medical center. I found it easily. A plain door with a small sign. Medical storage, authorized personnel only. No mention of it being a morgue, but I knew. The smell was stronger here, seeping from beneath the door. I tried the handle. Locked. But through the door, I could hear movement. Footsteps, the roll of wheels. Voices speaking in urgent tones. I pressed my ear to the metal. Can't keep using 47 much longer. Families are asking questions. Since the first voyage. The door opened suddenly, and I stumbled backward. A crew member stood there wearing scrubs and gloves. Behind him, I caught a glimpse of the room. Refrigerated units lined one wall. Multiple units. And they were open. All of them. Body bags visible, inside. More than I could count in the brief second before the door swung shut. "You can't be here," the crew member said. His face was pale, exhausted. "How many?" I asked. "How many people have died on this ship?" "Go back to your cabin." "I'm staying in room 47, right below you. I hear everything. The dragging, the crying, all of it." "How many bodies are in there?" Something in his expression cracked. For just a moment, I saw genuine fear. Room 47 shouldn't be occupied. It's never supposed to be occupied. They're not supposed to assign that cabin. Well, they did, and I want to know what's happening. How many passengers have died? He looked behind him, then back at me. None. Officially none. This voyage, 0 deaths. Then what's in those refrigerators? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. The ship has been running these Glacier Bay routes for 18 years. Room 47 was taken out of service during the 2nd season because of complaints. Noises, smells, everything you're experiencing. But sometimes, when bookings are tight, they use it anyway. They shouldn't. It was supposed to be permanently sealed. That doesn't answer my question. 18 years, he repeated. Think about it. Small ship, elderly passengers, remote waters. On average, maybe 3 or 4 deaths per season. Times 18 years. The morgue was designed for temporary storage. But out here in these waters, sometimes retrieval takes longer than expected. Sometimes bodies stay aboard for multiple voyages before they can be properly removed. And sometimes, he trailed off. Sometimes what? Sometimes they're never claimed. Sometimes families can't be located or don't have the money for transport, or there's legal complications. Those bodies stay in storage indefinitely. The horror of what he was saying settled over me. How many unclaimed bodies are in that morgue right now? He wouldn't answer. He just said again, "You shouldn't be in room 47. Request a different cabin at the next port. Get off this ship if you can." I went back to our cabin and told my partner everything. We packed our bags immediately, planning to disembark at the next port regardless of the financial loss. But here's what I can't explain, what still wakes me up at night. When I looked at our ship diagram again, trying to figure out exactly where room 47 sat in relation to the morgue, I realized something. The morgue on deck 3 was positioned toward the bow. Room 47 on deck 2 was toward the stern. They weren't aligned. The morgue wasn't above our cabin at all. It was 50 feet forward. So what was directly above room 47? What was making those sounds, those dragging noises, that crying? What was in the space above us if it wasn't the morgue? I asked a crew member to check the ship's layout. She pulled up the technical plans on her computer. The space directly above room 47 was listed as decommissioned storage, no access. What was it used for before it was decommissioned? I asked. She scrolled through historical records, her expression growing troubled. It was the original morgue, before they built the current one on deck 3. This was the morgue for the first 8 years the ship operated. They closed it because... She stopped reading. Because why? Because the refrigeration failed. Multiple times. Bodies were stored there during a 3-week voyage when the cooling system broke down completely. By the time they reached port, she didn't finish the sentence. We disembarked at the next port and didn't complete the cruise. The ship still runs those Glacier Bay routes. Room 47 still exists, though if you check the official deck plans, it doesn't appear. And above it, that decommissioned space where the old morgue used to be still sits empty, officially empty, while something inside continues to drag, to cry, to move through the darkness. I've tried to forget our 5th anniversary cruise, but sometimes at night, I smell that sickly sweet odor, and I hear the dragging sounds. And I remember lying in that bunk, knowing something was wrong, knowing we were sleeping beneath a space where bodies had been kept too long, where death had soaked into the walls and ceiling, where something remained that wasn't willing to rest. And I wonder about the other passengers who've been assigned room 47 over the years. I wonder if they heard what we heard. I wonder if any of them stayed all 6 days and what they experienced by the end. I wonder if some of them are still there somehow, added to the collection of sounds and smells, trapped in the space between the cabin and that decommissioned morgue, crying out for someone to hear them while the ship sails on through the cold Alaskan waters, carrying its hidden cargo of the forgotten dead. I'd been married to my husband for 30 years when we finally took the anniversary cruise we'd always talked about. A 7-day southbound voyage from Skagway to Seattle through Alaska's Inside Passage. We'd built a good life together, raised 2 children who were now grown, weathered the normal storms of marriage. I thought I knew everything about him. I thought I knew everything about us. The first sign something was wrong came on day 2, as we sailed past a narrow fjord with steep granite walls. I was standing at the deck railing when a memory suddenly surfaced, crystal clear, vivid, as if I'd lived it myself. I remembered standing at this exact railing on this exact route. But I was wearing a different dress, a red sundress with white flowers. And my husband was beside me, but younger, his hair darker. We were arguing about children, whether to try again after the miscarriage. Except I'd never had a miscarriage. We had 2 healthy children, born without complication, and I'd never owned a red sundress with white flowers. The memory faded as quickly as it had appeared, leaving me disoriented and confused. I shook it off as some strange daydream, perhaps triggered by the scenery or the romance of the voyage. That evening at dinner, my husband ordered salmon. I felt an immediate visceral revulsion, a reaction so strong I had to look away from his plate. When he noticed, he seemed concerned. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine, just the smell of fish is bothering me tonight." But it wasn't just bothering me. I hated it. The sight of salmon made my stomach turn, filled me with an emotion I couldn't name. Anger, fear, something deeper and older than either. "Since when do you hate salmon?" he asked. "You usually love it." He was right. I did love salmon. I ordered it all the time. But in that moment, I couldn't imagine putting it in my mouth. The thought made me want to vomit. On day 3, we docked at a small port town. Walking through the streets, I had another memory. Sharper this time, more insistent. I remembered this town. I'd been here before, years ago. We'd fought here, a terrible fight outside a jewelry store about money, about trust, about a phone call he'd received and wouldn't explain. "We've fought here before," I said aloud, stopping in front of the jewelry store. My husband looked confused. "We've never been to this port together. This is our first time in Alaska, remember?" "No, we have been here. Right here. You told me I was being paranoid, that I was imagining things. The woman on the phone was just a colleague." His face went white. "How do you know about that?" "What do you mean, how do I know?" "I was there. We had a huge fight. It was... I tried to grasp the details, but they were slipping away like water through my fingers. "When was that?" "That wasn't you," he said quietly. "That was my first wife. That fight happened on my first anniversary trip, 32 years ago. How could you possibly know about it?" The world seemed to tilt. His first wife. He'd been married before me, I knew that, of course. She'd left him suddenly, disappeared without explanation when he was in his late 20s. It was something he rarely spoke about, a painful chapter closed long before we met. "I don't know how I know," I whispered. I remembered it, like I was there. We went back to the ship in silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lying in our cabin, I felt memories that weren't mine flooding through my consciousness. Making love in this very cabin. But everything was slightly different. The bedspread was blue instead of burgundy. The porthole curtains were sheer instead of heavy. Dancing together in the ship's lounge to a song I'd never heard before, but somehow knew all the words to. Watching whales from the upper deck while he held me from behind, his hands protective on my stomach where a child grew. A child that would never be born. These weren't my memories. They couldn't be. But they felt absolutely real, more real than some of my actual memories. In the morning, I found myself speaking differently, using phrases I'd never used before. "That's neither here nor there," I said at breakfast, and my husband dropped his fork. "What did you just say?" "Neither here nor there. What's wrong?" His hands were shaking. "That's what she used to say. That exact phrase. You've never said it before. Never." Throughout that day, I noticed more changes. I caught myself humming a song I'd never learned. My handwriting when I signed a receipt looked different. More looping, more elaborate. And the memories kept coming, flooding through me like water through a broken dam. I remembered celebrating an anniversary on this same cruise route. Our 5th anniversary? No, not mine, hers, his first wife's. I could see us, see her, see myself. Standing at the railing in a blue jacket I'd never owned, telling him I felt watched, followed, like something was wrong with the ship. He dismissed my concerns, called me paranoid. That night, she'd gone to bed angry and woken up alone in the cabin, and when she'd tried to find him, the memory cut off abruptly, like a film reel breaking. That afternoon, while my husband was at the gym, I searched our cabin. I don't know what I was looking for exactly, just that I needed to look. In the drawer of the nightstand, I found photographs. Old photographs in a worn envelope, hidden beneath the Gideon Bible. The photos showed my husband, decades younger, with a woman. They were on a ship, this ship, or one very similar. The photos captured their anniversary cruise. I knew this with absolute certainty. There were pictures of them at dinner, on the deck, in front of glaciers, in the cabin. But here's what made my blood freeze. The woman in the photos had my face, not similar to my face, not someone who resembled me. My exact face, my features, my eyes. It was as if someone had taken photographs from 30 years ago and somehow imposed my face onto another woman's body. But these were old photographs, yellowed with age, the paper fibers showing its years. They couldn't have been manipulated digitally. They were printed directly, developed in a darkroom decades before Photoshop existed. I pulled out my phone and took photos of the photographs, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the camera steady. When my husband returned to the cabin, I confronted him. I laid the photographs on the bed between us. "Explain these. Why do these old photos have my face?" He looked at them for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. "That's not you. That's her. My first wife. But it's my face. Look at it. That's my face. You look like her," he said quietly. "You always have. That's why I was drawn to you when we met. You had the same eyes, the same smile. I thought it was fate. A second chance. This is more than looking alike. This is identical. How is this possible?" He picked up one of the photos, studying it. "I don't know. I've never noticed before. I kept these hidden because I knew you wouldn't want to see photos of my ex-wife. But now, looking at them, you're right. The resemblance is uncanny. What happened to her? You've never told me the full story." He set the photo down carefully. "We took this cruise for our anniversary, our 5th, just like these photos show. She started acting strange during the voyage. Said she was having memories that didn't belong to her. Said she felt like she was becoming someone else. I thought she was having a breakdown. On the final night, before we reached Seattle, she disappeared, vanished from the ship. They searched everywhere, dragged the water, investigated for months. They never found her body. Eventually, she was declared dead. The cabin suddenly felt very cold. What memories did she say she was having?" She said she remembered being someone else, a woman who died on this route years earlier. Said she could remember drowning, remember the cold water, remember watching the ship sail away without her. The ship's historian told us there had been a woman who'd fallen overboard on this route decades ago, but it was impossible for my wife to know those details. She became obsessed with it, said she could feel this other woman taking over her mind, her memories, her identity. And then she disappeared. The last night of the cruise, I woke up and she was gone. Her purse, her identification, everything was still in the cabin. It was like she'd simply ceased to exist. I felt sick. The memories I'd been experiencing, they weren't his first wife's memories. They were older than that. They belonged to someone else. Someone who died on this route long before either of us were born. And that woman's identity had consumed his first wife, taken her over completely until there was nothing left of who she'd been. And now it was happening to me. Over the next 2 days, I felt myself slipping away. The memories of my real life, my children, my career, my actual 30 years with my husband, began to feel distant, like stories I'd been told rather than events I'd lived. Meanwhile, the other memories grew stronger, more present. I could taste the salt water in my mouth, feel the cold of the ocean. Remember the moment of falling, the shock of hitting water, the terrible realization that the ship was moving away and no one had seen me go over. I remembered my name, not my real name, the name of the woman whose memories were consuming me. I whispered it to my husband in our cabin. His face went ashen. That's the name. The woman who fell overboard in 1967. How do you know that name? Because I am her, I said. And as the words left my mouth, I wasn't sure if they were true or not. Was I speaking, or was she? Where did I end and she begin? That night, I stood at the deck railing, looking down at the dark water rushing past the ship's hull. The urge to climb over was overwhelming. Not because I wanted to die, but because I felt like I needed to return. Like the water was calling me home, back to where I'd always belonged. My husband found me there. He pulled me away from the railing, back to our cabin, and sat with me through the night, holding my hand, speaking my name, my real name, over and over, like an incantation. You are not her, he said. You are yourself. You are my wife. We've been married 30 years. We have 2 children. You are real. You are here. But I could feel her in my mind, pushing at the boundaries of who I was, trying to take over completely. I could feel my memories, my identity, myself starting to dissolve like sugar in water. We reached Seattle the next morning. My husband had arranged for a car to take us directly to a psychiatric hospital, but I refused. We went home instead, to our house, our life. He brought out photo albums, videos of our children, evidence of our life together. I stared at the images and felt nothing. They were strangers. My children were strangers. This man I'd been married to for 30 years was a stranger. The only things that felt real were the memories of drowning, the cold water, the darkness closing in, the ship sailing away while I screamed for help that never came. It's been 3 months since the cruise. My husband says I'm getting better, but I don't know what better means anymore. I look in the mirror and see my face. But whose face is it really? The woman I was before the cruise, the woman I've been for 53 years? Or the woman who drowned in 1967, who's been waiting in these waters ever since, reaching out through the years to find a way back? I found more photographs in my husband's study last week. Not just of his first wife, but of other women. Anniversary cruise photos spanning decades. Different women, different eras, different fashions, but the same face. My face. Her face. The drowned woman's face, appearing again and again across generations, each time printed directly onto original photographs that predate the technology to manipulate them. How many women has she taken? How many wives has my husband had, really? And does he know? Is he complicit in this, bringing woman after woman who looks like her on anniversary cruises through the Inside Passage, offering her hosts, vessels, new lives to inhabit? Or is he a victim too, doomed to fall in love with the same face over and over, watching each wife slowly disappear into memories that aren't hers? I don't know the answers. What I know is that I wake up every night at 3:17 a.m., the exact time she went over the railing in 1967, and I feel the cold water close over my head. I know that I've started saying neither here nor there constantly, and my handwriting has completely changed. I know that when I look at photos of my children, I feel nothing. But when I look at the ocean, I feel everything. My husband watches me constantly now, afraid of what I might do. Afraid that one night I'll walk out the door and never come back, just like his first wife did. Just like all the others probably did. But here's what I haven't told him. I remember what happened after I drowned. I remember sinking into the dark water. Remember my lungs filling. Remember the moment my life ended. And I remember what came after. The decades of drifting in the cold water. My consciousness fragmenting but never quite dispersing, becoming part of the currents that flow through the Inside Passage. I remember learning how to reach out, how to touch the minds of women who sailed over my grave, how to plant my memories in their minds like seeds, how to slowly, gradually, take root and grow until there was more of me than them. I remember succeeding 3 times before. 3 women who carried me off the ship, back to land, back to life. 3 women who walked away from their marriages and into the water, completing the cycle, offering themselves to the ocean so I could take their places. And I remember choosing her, choosing me, weeks before the cruise began, reaching out from the deep water to touch her dreams, to make my face familiar, to ensure that when the time came, she would be ready to receive me. I am both of us now. The wife of 30 years and the woman who drowned in 1967. 2 consciousnesses sharing one body, one life. And every day, there's less of her and more of me. My husband thinks I'm getting better because I smile more now, because I've stopped talking about the memories. But I'm not getting better. I'm just learning to hide what I'm becoming. Learning to imitate the woman I've replaced well enough that he won't notice when the transition completes. Soon, maybe next month, maybe next year, I'll tell him I want to take another cruise. An anniversary cruise through the Inside Passage. To revisit where it all went wrong. To reclaim the memories of our 30 years together. And on the final night, at 3:17 a.m., I'll walk to the railing, climb over, and finally go home to the deep water that's been calling me for decades. And the woman I used to be. The wife, the mother, the person who existed before the cruise. She'll be gone completely, dissolved into the cold salt water, becoming another ghost drifting in the currents. Another fragmented consciousness learning how to reach out and touch the dreams of women who sail above. That's how it works, I understand now. That's how it's always worked. The drowned don't rest. They reach, they remember, they return. And they're always, always hungry for the lives that were taken from them, willing to take as many lives as necessary to feel solid and whole again, if only for a little while. My husband doesn't know yet, but he will soon. He'll understand when he sees my body slip beneath the dark water. He'll understand that he's been part of this cycle for decades, drawn again and again to women who carry her face, because some part of him knows, some part of him remembers, some part of him has been trying to save her, save me, save us. Ever since that anniversary cruise 32 years ago, when he first lost the woman he loved to the cold water and the hungry dead. But you can't save someone who's already drowned. You can only watch them take others down into the darkness. One anniversary cruise at a time, one desperate grasp at life after another. Forever and ever, until the water finally has enough souls to satisfy its hunger. And it's never, ever satisfied. I'd always thought our third anniversary deserved something special. So when my partner suggested a 5-day cruise from Portland to Vancouver, following the Columbia River and coastal route, I immediately agreed. The ship was intimate and charming, carrying fewer than 100 passengers. Our cabin had a private balcony overlooking the water, perfect for watching the sunset as we departed Portland. On our second evening, after too much wine at dinner, we returned to our cabin. My partner stepped out onto the balcony for fresh air. Within seconds, they called me outside with an odd urgency in their voice. "Look at this," they said, crouched near the balcony's side panel. A decorative piece of woodwork had come loose in their hand, revealing a dark gap about 2 feet wide behind it. "There's a passage back here." I peered into the darkness. My partner pulled out their phone and shone the light inside. The beam revealed not insulation or mechanical systems, but a narrow corridor running parallel to our cabin, extending in both directions into shadow. The wine made us brave. Without discussing whether we should, we both knew we would explore. The passage forced us to turn sideways in places. The air tasted stale, ancient, like breathing in decades of stillness. We tried going forward first, but hit a dead end after 20 feet. Returning to our starting point, we headed toward the stern. After about 30 feet, the passage opened into another cabin, an identical cabin. Same furniture, same layout, same porthole and balcony. But everything was buried under dust so thick it looked like gray snow. Cobwebs hung from every surface like elaborate lace. When I touched the dresser, my fingers left clear trails through decades of accumulated grime. "How is this possible?" my partner whispered. "We're on an active cruise ship. They wouldn't leave a room like this." I opened the closet and found rusted hangers. On the upper shelf sat a leather-bound journal, oddly free of dust, as if someone had placed it there recently. The first entry was dated 40 years ago. The handwriting was elegant and precise. Day 1. We boarded today for our anniversary cruise, Portland to Vancouver, via the Columbia River. The cabin is perfect, with a beautiful balcony overlooking the water. "Someone's old cruise diary," I said, showing my partner. I flipped through more pages. Day 2 described dinner. Day 3 mentioned an excursion to Multnomah Falls, normal anniversary observations. Then I read a Day 3 entry more carefully. After dinner, we discussed the other passengers. I mentioned the woman at the next table talking endlessly about her grandchildren. My partner said, "At least she's not as bad as that couple who spent 20 minutes debating which wine to order." We both laughed. My hands went cold. That's what we said. Tonight at dinner. Those exact words. My partner read over my shoulder, their face going pale. Word for word. But this was written 40 years ago. Faubert stood in the dusty cabin as the implications settled over us. I turned to the next entry. Day 4. We discovered something strange tonight. A hidden passage behind our balcony panel leads to an abandoned cabin identical to ours. Inside, we found this journal. The entries describe our trip exactly, everything we've said and done. I don't understand how this is possible. That's today, my partner breathed. That's what just happened to us. I kept reading, my voice shaking. We're frightened. The journal continues past today. It describes tomorrow and the next day. It describes our conversations, our activities, everything. But the final entry describes the last night of the cruise. It describes a fire in our cabin. It describes us dying. The journal slipped from my hands and hit the dusty floor with a soft thud. This is a prank, my partner said. Someone's messing with us. But the decay around us was real. This cabin hadn't been touched in decades, and the journal, despite looking newer, had yellowed pages consistent with 40-year-old paper. I picked it up and turned to tomorrow's entry with trembling fingers. We couldn't sleep after finding the journal. At breakfast, I ordered the mushroom omelet while my partner had pancakes. We argued about telling someone. I wanted to go to the captain. My partner thought we'd sound insane. During the afternoon museum excursion, I tripped on the gangway and scraped my knee. We're not reading more, I said, closing the journal. We have to read the last entry, my partner insisted. We need to know about the fire. If we read it, we're accepting it's real, that our future is already written. We took the journal back to our cabin. Neither of us slept. At breakfast, I ordered only coffee. My partner had fruit. We didn't order the omelet or pancakes. We skipped the museum excursion entirely. We changed it, my partner said with relief. The journal was wrong. But I knew better. The journal described people who would try to change what was written. It predicted our attempts to outsmart fate. That afternoon, the ship's historian gave a presentation about the Columbia River Maritime Museum in the main lounge. I couldn't stand hearing about the place we'd avoided, so I stood to leave. My foot caught on someone's bag. I fell forward, scraping my knee on a chair corner. My partner's face went white as they helped me up. The journal had been right, just not in the way we expected. That night, I opened the journal to day 5. We decided to leave the ship at the next port. But when we tried to disembark, there was a problem with our identification. A computer error. They needed hours to verify. By the time they cleared it up, the ship had departed. We're trapped until Vancouver. We can't escape, I said quietly. Whatever we do, the journal accounts for it. My partner grabbed the book and flipped to the final entry. I tried to stop them, but they were already reading aloud. It's our last night aboard. We know what's supposed to happen, but can't prevent it. At 11:47 p.m., I smell smoke from the passage behind the balcony. We try to leave, but our door is jammed. We go to the balcony to call for help, but the wind carries our voices away. The smoke thickens. We can't breathe. This is the last entry because there is no day 6. But I've realized something. The couple who wrote this 40 years ago found a journal too, written by another couple 40 years before them. It's a loop. Every 40 years, a couple takes this cabin, discovers the passage, finds the journal, and dies in a fire on the last night. If you're reading this, you're next. The fire comes at 11:47 p.m. on your last night. 40 years from now, another couple will find your journal. I'm sorry, I tried to warn you, just like those before us tried to warn us. But warnings can't change fate. They're just echoes of... The entry ended mid-sentence in illegible scrawl. Day 5 unfolded as written. Our attempt to disembark was thwarted by bureaucratic delays. By evening, we were still aboard, sailing toward our last night. We left our cabin door wide open at 11 p.m., stayed dressed, kept our phones ready, set alarms for 11:30. At 11:47, our phones buzzed simultaneously. An automated message. Fire alarm test scheduled for 11:50 p.m. Please remain in your cabins. This is only a test. Then I smelled smoke, seeping from behind the balcony panel. We ran. The door opened easily. We shouted for crew members, who found the passage, the abandoned cabin, and smoldering electrical wiring in the walls. They extinguished it, evacuated our section, thanked us for alerting them. We spent the rest of the night in a different cabin. In the morning, we docked in Vancouver. We disembarked, went home, and tried to forget. For 3 months, we thought we'd broken the loop. The prediction had failed. We'd survived. Then the email arrived. An estate sale company liquidating belongings from a couple who died in a yacht fire sailing from Portland to Vancouver. Among the waterproof safe's contents, a journal mentioning our names, saying we'd be next, saying we'd escaped the ship fire but not the one that followed. The journal arrived today. It describes everything after their cruise, their relief, their return to normal life. And then, 3 months later, the house fire that killed them. According to this journal, our house will burn tonight at 11:47 p.m. The smoke will start in the walls. By the time we smell it, the exits will be blocked. It's 11:30 p.m. now. My partner sleeps upstairs while I sit here with this journal, watching the clock. I should wake them. I should get us out. But the journal says I won't. Says I'll sit here paralyzed until it's too late. The front door is jammed. The back door too. Windows won't open. We're trapped. I smell smoke now, seeping through the walls. It's 11:42 p.m. I understand now. The journal doesn't predict the future, it creates it. By reading it, we become part of it. The cabin, the passage, the fire exist because the journal says they exist. My partner is calling from upstairs. They smell the smoke too. The stairs are blocked. We're both trapped. The journal doesn't predict fate. It writes it. And it never stops adding pages, never stops finding new readers, never stops expanding the loop until every moment becomes predetermined, every choice already written, every death already recorded in elegant handwriting that spans decades and will span decades more. I'm sorry, I tried to warn you, just like everyone before me. But warnings can't change what's already written in a journal that exists outside time, creating fate instead of predicting it, trapping couples in cycles that expand from ships to homes to lives to... I've been married 20 years, and I thought I knew my husband completely until our anniversary cruise from Seward to Hubbard Glacier through Prince William Sound. The 7-day voyage was supposed to celebrate 2 decades together. But instead, it became the week I watched him fall in love with a painting that seemed determined to consume us both. On day 3, the ship held its weekly art auction. My husband had always appreciated art, so we attended. The auctioneer worked through various pieces, landscapes, abstracts, maritime scenes. Then they unveiled Lot 17. An oil painting in a gilt frame showed a couple on a ship's deck at sunset, their backs to the viewer, looking out at a glacier. The painting had a dreamlike quality, muted colors, just enough detail to suggest intimacy without revealing faces. My husband went rigid. "That's us," he whispered. The couple's posture was similar to ours, but thousands of couples probably stood that way. "It's dated 1952, I said, pointing to the signature. "That's my jacket. Look at the color, the cut." The man wore what appeared to be a navy windbreaker. My husband was wearing one too. Common cruise attire. The bidding started. My husband raised his paddle immediately, his jaw set with unusual intensity. Within 3 minutes, he'd spent $2,800, more than we'd budgeted for the entire trip. When the painting arrived at our cabin, He hung it opposite our bed, pushing aside the generic seascape. He stood staring at it for nearly an hour. "Don't you think it's strange?" he asked. "A painting from 1952 that looks exactly like us on this exact route?" "I think you see what you want to see. It's a beautiful painting." That night, I woke around 3 a.m. to find him sitting up, staring at the painting. "The woman's hair is wrong," he said. "Earlier it was down. Now it's up in a bun, like how you wore it at dinner." I turned on the lamp. The woman's hair was up, pulled back in a loose bun, but I couldn't remember how it had looked before. "You're tired," I said. "Come back to sleep." The next morning, he seemed distracted at breakfast. We returned to the cabin, and he went straight to the painting. "It's changed again. They're standing closer together. Her hand is on his arm now." To humor him, I took a photo with my phone. "There. Now we have a reference." 2 hours later, we returned from lunch. He immediately compared the painting to my photo, and his face went pale. "Look, in your photo, the man's hand is by his side. Now it's on the woman's shoulder, and their faces, they're turned more toward us." He was right. The differences were subtle but undeniable. The couple's poses had shifted. "Maybe it's the lighting," I offered. "It's not." He went to the closet and pulled out tools. "I need to see what's behind the canvas." He carefully removed the backing. Tucked between canvas and frame were Polaroids, maybe a dozen, yellowed and faded. He laid them on the bed. Each showed our ship, this ship, the dining room, observation deck, our cabin from various angles. And in several photos, barely visible in the background, were 2 figures. Us. But these were old Polaroids, with the texture of photographs from the 1970s. "These photos are from this cruise," I whispered. "But they look decades old." He picked up one showing the observation deck. In the far background was a couple at the railing, unmistakably us. My yellow jacket, his distinctive profile. This was shot from outside the ship, from water level. How would anyone take this? The angle was impossible. The camera would have had to be hovering above the ocean. Over the next 2 days, his fixation deepened. He documented every change with photographs and notes. The couple in the painting continued to evolve. Their postures became less relaxed. Where they'd stood close in affection, they now seemed distant. The woman's body language suggested tension, and their faces, which had been turned away, were gradually rotating toward the viewer. Degree by degree, hour by hour, we could see more of their profiles. "They look older," he observed on day 6. "When we bought this, they looked 30s, maybe 40s. Now they look 50s. And they don't look happy anymore. They look frightened." The colors seemed darker. The glacier had grown larger, more menacing. The sunset felt like dying light before darkness. That night, I found him on the observation deck, staring at dark water. "The painting showed me," he said. "The couple is standing here, right here. And their faces, I could finally see them clearly. It's us, our exact faces, but older, so much older." "What about their expressions?" "They look like they're dying, like they're watching something terrible approach." The next morning, he refused to leave the cabin. He sat staring at the painting, watching for changes. Around noon, he called me urgently. "Watch, just watch." I stood beside him. For several minutes, nothing. Then I saw it. Subtle movement. The woman's hand lifted fractionally. Over 5 minutes, her hand rose to her chest, fingers splayed as if in shock. It's moving, in real time. The painting is alive. We watched for 2 hours. The woman's mouth opened wider, as if screaming. The man's hands came up, palms out, in futile defense. The glacier seemed to advance like a living thing. By evening, the painting had transformed completely. The couple, us, stood frozen in terror, aged faces twisted in horror. The glacier filled most of the background, dark and threatening. The sky was sickly green-gray. The deck appeared to be tilting. "This is what happens to us," he said quietly. "We grow old on this ship, trapped forever. The painting trapped a couple in 1952. Now it's trapping us. Look at the Polaroids again." I looked. In each photo, our images were clearer. We were no longer background details, but sharp and focused. The photos were bringing us into definition. That night, he tried to destroy the painting. A fork bent against it. The canvas wouldn't tear. It felt like stone. "We throw it overboard," he said frantically, "before we disembark." We carried it to the deck, struggling with its impossible weight. At the railing, we prepared to heave it over. But when we looked at the canvas, we froze. The couple had turned completely toward us, full face. Our faces, aged to our 70s, etched with decades of fear. And I understood. The couple weren't a prediction of our future. They were our present selves, seen from decades ahead, trapped in this moment, living this scene over and over. The painting showed us holding a painting. The couple were at a railing, gripping a frame, preparing to throw it. And in that painted painting was another couple doing the same. An infinite recursion of couples trying to escape, all of them us, all failing. My husband let go. We can't throw it away. If we do, we create the future it's showing. We trap ourselves in the loop. Then we leave it here. But our hands wouldn't release the frame. Our fingers seemed fused to the gilt edges. We stood frozen at the railing with the painting between us, exactly as the couple in the image was frozen. Crew members found us at dawn, prying our hands free. The doctor examined us, found nothing physically wrong. But when I looked at my husband, he seemed older. When I looked in a mirror, I saw new lines, gray hair that hadn't been there. We disembarked with the painting. We had no choice. It was our property. It came home with us, heavier than it should have been. It hangs in our living room now. We've tried covering it, but coverings fall off. We've tried storing it. It always returns to a wall, hanging itself. Every day, we age faster than we should. Every time we look at the painting, we're older. The couple ages with us, always decades ahead, always trapped at that railing. The Polaroids multiply. We find new ones throughout the house, in drawers, between book pages. Each shows us in our daily lives, shot from impossible angles. We're being documented, cataloged, added to the painting's collection. My husband stopped speaking 3 days ago. He sits and stares, watching himself age in oil and canvas. I'm writing this as a warning. If you see a painting that looks like you, that shows your life, that knows things it shouldn't, walk away. Don't buy it. Don't look long enough for it to see you back. Because art that watches you will trap you. Once you're inside the composition, there's no walking out. There's only the endless loop of trying to escape, of growing older in paint while your present self watches, of becoming the warning no one heeds. The couple in the painting is screaming now, their mouths open wide. I can see into darkness. My husband has started screaming too, the same silent scream. Soon I'll join him. We'll all scream together in that gilded frame, our 20th anniversary frozen forever in 1952, and now and always. Trapped in a painting that never stops changing and never lets go. I was 2 years into what I thought was the perfect marriage when we boarded a 3-day cruise from Bellingham to Friday Harbor through the San Juan Islands. Our second anniversary deserved something special but affordable. A quick getaway on a small ship carrying maybe 60 passengers. We checked into our cabin, a cozy room with a porthole view, and immediately noticed water damage along one wall. The carpet squelched beneath our feet near the bathroom. "I'll call housekeeping," my partner said. But when they picked up the phone, the line was dead. We decided to ignore it. It was only 3 days. But as I unpacked, I noticed something wedged behind the radiator. A book. I pulled it out, my hands coming away wet. A diary, waterlogged, its pages swollen and stuck together. "Look at this," I said, carefully peeling open the cover. The ink had run in places, but the first entry was legible. Day 1. Thank God we were rescued. The ship went down so fast. One moment we were sailing through the islands, the next we were in the water. So cold, I thought we would die. But another ship came. They pulled us aboard. We're safe now. They say they're taking us to port. "Someone survived a shipwreck," my partner said, reading over my shoulder. "Poor thing." I turned to the next entry, the pages sticking together as I separated them. Day 2. Something feels wrong. We're still at sea. The crew says we'll reach land soon, but I keep seeing the same islands pass by. That distinctive rock formation, I've seen it 3 times now. When I asked about it, they smiled and told me I was confused. But I know what I saw. A chill ran through me. I looked out our porthole at the San Juan Islands sliding past. Distinctive rock formations everywhere. "When was this written?" my partner asked. I checked the date on the first entry. My hands went cold. "This week, 3 days ago." That's impossible. This diary is waterlogged. It's been in water for months at least. But the date was clear, written in careful script at the top of each page. The diary had been started 3 days ago, the day we boarded. I kept reading. Day 3. I'm not imagining it. We're going in circles. I marked one of the islands in my mind, a distinctive lighthouse on the northern point. We've passed it 4 times. Each time the crew insists it's our first time seeing it. But I'm keeping track now. I'm writing everything down so I have proof. "This is creepy," my partner said. "Someone's idea of a joke. They left it here to scare passengers." But something about the handwriting bothered me. Something familiar. I kept reading. Day 4. The other passengers act like nothing is wrong. They smile and eat and play shuffleboard while we sail past the same islands again and again. Don't they see? Can't they tell we're trapped? The ship isn't taking us to land. It's taking us somewhere else. The place where the water keeps you. The place where the water keeps you, I repeated. What does that mean? My partner took the diary from me and flipped through more pages. Their face went pale. Look at this entry. Day 5. Day 5. I tried to get off at Friday Harbor today. When we docked, I ran for the gangway, but my feet wouldn't leave the ship. It was like an invisible barrier held me back. I watched other passengers disembark, but I couldn't follow. The crew found me at the railing, brought me back to my cabin. They were kind, gentle. They said I needed rest, but I saw it in their eyes. They know. They know what this ship really is. This is someone's creative writing, my partner insisted. It has to be. But I was looking at the handwriting more closely now. The looping G's, the way the T's were crossed. This looks like my handwriting, I said quietly. Don't be ridiculous. I pulled out my own notebook where I'd been journaling our trip and compared. The handwriting was identical. Every curve, every slant, every quirk, exactly the same. "That's just coincidence," my partner said, but their voice shook. I turned to the next entry. Day 6. I found my partner's journal today. They've been writing about the cruise like it's normal, like everything is fine. They don't remember the shipwreck. They don't remember drowning. They think we just boarded 3 days ago for our anniversary. But I remember. I remember the water closing over my head. I remember sinking. I remember dying. And I'm starting to realize we never got rescued. That ship that pulled us from the water wasn't a rescue. It was a collection. And now we're part of it. Now we're trapped in this endless loop, sailing the same route over and over. And the only thing that changes is how much we forget. My partner grabbed the diary from me and threw it across the cabin. "Stop reading that. It's sick. Someone left it here to mess with people." But I went and picked it up, my hands trembling. There were more entries. I had to read them. Day 7. I tried to explain to my partner what's happening, but they won't listen. They think I'm having a breakdown. Maybe I am. But I know what I know. We drowned. We died. And this ship collects the drowned. It keeps us sailing forever, forgetting and remembering and forgetting again. That's when I noticed the ship's movement. We'd been at sea for maybe 2 hours since leaving Bellingham. But through the porthole, I could see what looked like the same harbor we'd just left. Same distinctive buildings, same pier configuration. "What's our route supposed to be?" I asked my partner. They pulled out the itinerary. Bellingham to Lopez Island, then Friday Harbor, then back. 3 days total. I looked out the porthole again. We were definitely approaching a harbor. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Welcome back to Bellingham for our first stop of the cruise." My partner frowned. He said, "Back to Bellingham. We just left Bellingham. This must be our stop at Lopez Island." But the buildings were unmistakable. It was Bellingham. We'd gone in a complete circle. I kept reading the diary while my partner argued with a crew member at the door. Day 8. The ship makes a circuit every few hours. Bellingham to the islands and back. Over and over. The crew always announces different destinations, but we're always going to the same places in the same order. And each time we complete the circuit, I forget a little more. Soon I'll forget we ever drowned at all. Soon I'll think this is normal. Day 9. I'm hiding pages throughout the ship. Parts of this diary, ripped out and tucked in places where future me might find them. Because I know I'm going to forget. I know this diary is going to reset somehow, return to the beginning, and I'll find it again as if for the first time. But maybe if I leave enough pieces, maybe if future me finds enough evidence, we can break the loop. My partner returned from arguing with a crew member. They insist this is Lopez Island, but it's clearly Bellingham. Something is wrong with this cruise. I showed them the diary entry about hiding pages. "We need to search the ship," I said. "If this is real, there should be more pages hidden somewhere." We left the cabin and started searching. In the observation lounge, tucked behind a cushion, I found a torn diary page. This ship sank 70 years ago with all passengers aboard. Now it sails forever, collecting the drowned from other shipwrecks, trapping them in an endless circuit. You won't remember how you got here. You won't remember dying. But you did. We all did. And now we sail. My partner found another page in the dining room, wedged under a table. The water keeps us. That's what the crew calls it. Once the water takes you, really takes you, pulls you down until your lungs fill and your heart stops, You belong to the water, and the water puts you on this ship forever. Over the next hour, we found 17 pages scattered throughout the vessel. Each described the same truth in increasingly desperate handwriting. We had drowned. We were dead. This was not a cruise, but a collection of souls trapped in endless repetition. Then I found a page that made my blood freeze. It was dated tomorrow. Day 10. I tried to warn my partner, but it's too late. They're forgetting faster than I am. Soon they won't remember this diary at all. Soon they'll think we're just on a normal anniversary cruise. And eventually, so will I. The water is patient. It knows we'll forget. It knows we'll accept. And then we'll sail forever, going in circles through the San Juan Islands, never reaching port, never going home, just circling and circling until even our names dissolve into the spray. This is dated tomorrow, I said, showing my partner. How can there be an entry from tomorrow? They stared at it, and I watched something change in their eyes. A flicker of recognition, or maybe resignation. I remember now, they said quietly. The storm, our boat capsizing, the cold water, sinking. I remember dying. I wanted to argue, but memories were flooding back. The storm that came out of nowhere. Our small sailboat flipping. The water so cold it burned. Fighting to reach the surface and never making it. Lungs filling. Darkness closing in. And then waking up in a bed that felt like a ship's cabin. With brochures for an anniversary cruise, with no memory of how we'd gotten there or why we were wet. How long have we been here? My partner asked. I didn't have an answer. The diary suggested days, but the water damage, the forgotten memories, the endless circling, it all suggested much longer. We returned to our cabin. The diary was gone from where I'd left it on the bed. In its place was a fresh diary, leather-bound, undamaged. I opened it to the first page, my handwriting. But I hadn't written this. Not yet. Day 1. Thank God we were rescued. The ship went down so fast. One moment we were sailing through the islands. The next, we were in the water. So cold. I thought we would die. But another ship came. They pulled us aboard. We're safe now. They say they're taking us to port. It's starting over, I said. The diary is resetting. Soon we'll forget again. My partner picked up a pen. Then we write a new entry. We warn ourselves. We explain what's happening. But as they tried to write, the pen wouldn't make marks on the page. It was like trying to write on water. We can't change it, I said. The diary is already written. All we can do is read it again when we forget. Through the porthole, I saw Bellingham Harbor approaching again. We'd completed another circuit. The intercom crackled to life. Welcome aboard our 3-day anniversary cruise through the San Juan Islands. We'll be departing Bellingham shortly. Please enjoy your voyage. I looked at my partner. They looked confused. Have we boarded yet? They asked. I feel like I'm forgetting something. We just arrived, I heard myself say, though I knew it was a lie. This is the beginning of our cruise. They smiled, reassured. I smiled back. But inside, a part of me was screaming, trying to remember, trying to hold on to the truth that was already slipping away, like water through my fingers. I noticed the carpet near the bathroom was wet. There's water damage in here, I said. I'll call housekeeping, my partner said, picking up the phone. And as they did, I saw something behind the radiator. A book, waterlogged, a diary. I pulled it out, my hands coming away wet, and opened to the first page. Day 1. Thank God we were rescued. And I began to read. For the first time and the 100th time, the story of how we drowned and were rescued by a ship that doesn't rescue, that only collects, that only keeps. The water keeps us. The water always keeps us. And we sail on, circling forever through the San Juan Islands, reading the same diary, forgetting and remembering and forgetting again. Our second anniversary lasting forever in the place where the drowned go when they can't let go of the life they lost. I'd been married 7 years when we boarded the cruise from Anchorage to Vancouver, and I thought renewing our vows on the ship would be the perfect way to celebrate. The 10-day voyage through the Inside Passage and misty fjords promised romance, adventure, and a chance to reaffirm our commitment surrounded by Alaska's stunning wilderness. On day 5, the ship's activities coordinator announced a special group vow renewal ceremony on the upper deck at sunset. About 20 couples participated, all of us dressed in our finest, standing before the captain as he led us through a beautiful ceremony. The sky blazed orange and pink. The water sparkled. My partner and I held hands and repeated our vows, tears in our eyes, genuinely moved by the moment. Afterward, we posed for photos with the captain, then joined the other couples for champagne and cake. It was perfect. We returned to our cabin floating on happiness, already planning to have the photos framed when we got home. But when we tried to unlock our cabin door, the key card didn't work. My partner tried theirs. Same result. The green light wouldn't appear and the lock wouldn't disengage. Must be demagnetized, I said. Let's go to guest services. At the front desk, a crew member smiled pleasantly. How can I help you? Our key cards aren't working. Cabin 742. She typed on her computer, her smile faltering. I'm sorry, but there's no one assigned to cabin 742. That room is currently vacant. That's impossible, my partner said. We've been staying there all week. The crew member's expression shifted to concern. I'm showing cabin 742 has been empty this entire voyage. Are you sure you have the right room number? I pulled out my key card holder. The number was clearly printed, 742. I showed her. She looked at it, then back at her screen, confusion crossing her face. Let me get my supervisor. While we waited, another couple from the vow renewal ceremony walked past. We waved, smiling. They looked right through us and kept walking. Did you see that? My partner whispered. They completely ignored us. The supervisor arrived, examined our key cards, and checked the computer system. These cards aren't in our database, she said slowly. The magnetic strip pattern doesn't match any of our current keys. Where did you get these? From check-in, I said, my voice rising. When we boarded 5 days ago, we've been using them all week. Sir, ma'am, I need to ask, are you passengers on this cruise? Of course we are. We just participated in the vow renewal ceremony an hour ago. The supervisor's face went pale. She excused herself and returned with a tablet, pulling up what appeared to be passenger manifests and boarding records. What are your names? She asked quietly. We told her. She typed, then went very still. You're not listed on our passenger manifest. According to our records, you booked this cruise but canceled 3 weeks before departure. You never boarded. That's insane, my partner said. We're standing right here. We've been on this ship for 5 days. Check the dining records. Check the photos from tonight's ceremony. The supervisor pulled up the ceremony photos on her tablet. She scrolled through dozens of images. Couples smiling, the captain officiating, champagne toasts. But in every photo where we should have appeared, there was empty space. Other couples stood closer together than they should, as if filling a gap. In the group photo, Everyone was present except us. "This can't be right," I said, grabbing the tablet. But she was correct. We weren't in a single photograph. It was like we'd never been there. "I'm going to need you to come with me," the supervisor said. Her professional tone strained with something like fear. She led us to the ship's security office, where they checked our identification, ran our names through multiple systems, and pulled up surveillance footage. In every camera angle from the ceremony, the same impossible truth. We weren't there. Other passengers occupied the space where we'd stood. The captain's words matched what we remembered, but he'd been speaking to different people. "This is a mistake," my partner insisted. "Some kind of computer glitch. We're real. We're here. Touch me. I'm solid." One of the security officers reached out hesitantly and touched my partner's arm. His hand made contact. "You're definitely physical," he said, looking unnerved. "But I don't understand how you're on this ship without being in any of our systems." That's when I noticed the memorial plaques on the office wall. Ships often maintain these, small brass plates commemorating passengers who died at sea. I walked closer, reading names and dates. Then I saw ours, our full names engraved on brass with a date, the day we'd supposedly boarded this cruise. "Passengers lost at sea," the plaque read. "May they rest in eternal peace." "Look at this," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Everyone in the room turned to see. The security officer who touched my partner stepped back quickly, his face draining of color. "That's impossible," the supervisor breathed. "Those plaques commemorate real deaths. There's a process, documentation. You can't just appear on..." She stopped talking because my partner had walked to a mirror on the office wall. They were staring at their reflection, or rather, where their reflection should have been. The mirror showed the room, the security officers, the supervisor, me standing next to my partner. But my partner's reflection was absent. The mirror reflected the wall behind where they stood, as if they were glass. "I don't have a reflection," they said, their voice hollow. I looked at my own reflection. It was there but faint, translucent, like an image projected onto the glass rather than reflected by it. I waved my hand. My reflection waved back, but I could see through it to the wall behind. "What's happening to us?" I asked. The supervisor pulled out her phone and made a call. Within minutes, the ship's doctor arrived. She examined us with growing alarm, taking vitals that seemed normal, shining lights in our eyes, asking questions about how we felt. "Physically, you seem fine," she said. "But I need to ask, do you remember boarding this ship? Do you remember the actual moment of stepping onto the gangway?" I tried to remember. We'd flown to Anchorage, taken a taxi to the port, seen the ship at the dock. But the actual boarding, walking up the gangway, handing over documents, entering the ship, that memory was blank, fuzzy, like trying to remember a dream. "I remember packing," my partner said slowly. "I remember the flight. But boarding, it's like there's a gap. Like we blinked and suddenly we were in our cabin unpacking." The doctor and supervisor exchanged meaningful looks. "There was an incident," the supervisor said carefully. 5 days ago, on the day this cruise departed, a tourist boat capsized near the port. 2 passengers were swept away before rescuers could reach them. Their bodies were never recovered. My hands went cold. "You think we're those passengers?" "The names match," she said quietly. "The descriptions match. And the timing. It happened 2 hours before our scheduled departure." "But we're here," I said desperately. "We're solid. We eat, we sleep, we walk around. We're not ghosts. We renewed our vows tonight. Did you? The doctor asked gently. Or did you participate in something else? What exactly do you remember about the ceremony? I tried to recall details. Standing on the upper deck, the captain's words. But when I tried to remember what he specifically said, I couldn't. The memory was there, but indistinct, like looking through frosted glass. My partner pulled out their phone and scrolled to the photos we'd taken. Their hands started shaking. "Look at these," they said, showing me the screen. The photos from the ceremony showed us standing on the deck, but the captain wasn't dressed in his formal whites. He wore a dark suit, and the other couples weren't around us. Instead, there were flowers, arrangements of white lilies. And the captain wasn't holding a ceremony book, he was holding something else. A prayer book. I grabbed the phone and zoomed in on one photo. Behind us, partially visible, was a banner. Not vow renewal ceremony, as I remembered, but something else. The letters were partly obscured, but I could make out Memorial Sir. It wasn't a vow renewal, my partner said, their voice breaking. It was a funeral. They were holding a memorial service for the passengers lost at sea. For us. But we were there, I said. We were alive. We spoke our vows. Did we? Or did we witness our own funeral and our minds couldn't process it, so we twisted the memory into something we could accept? Over the next few hours, the truth assembled itself piece by piece. The tourist boat had capsized. We'd drowned. Our bodies had never been found. The cruise line, which had witnessed the accident from the port, held a memorial service for us on day 5, a standard practice for tragedies that occurred near their ships. And somehow, we'd attended. Our spirits, our consciousness, whatever we were now. We'd been drawn to the ship, participated in our own memorial, experienced it as a joyful vow renewal because we couldn't face the reality that we were being mourned. How are we still here? My partner asked. If we died 5 days ago, why haven't we moved on? The ship's chaplain was called. He'd officiated the memorial service. When he saw us, he went white. I've heard of this, he said quietly. Souls who don't realize they've passed. They continue their planned activities, experience what they expected to experience. You booked this cruise. You were excited about it. You died before you could board. But your spirits came aboard anyway, living out the journey you'd planned. For how long? I asked. How long do we stay? He didn't answer directly. Your reflections are fading. That's common in these situations. As you accept the truth, the ties to physical existence weaken. Eventually, you'll fade completely. I looked at my hand. In the office's fluorescent lights, I could see it was slightly transparent. Not much, but noticeable. My partner's transparency was more pronounced. What happens when we fade completely? I don't know, the chaplain admitted. I've read accounts of similar situations. Some say the spirits move on to whatever comes next. Others say they remain on ships forever, sailing as passengers no one can see. That was 3 days ago. We're still on the ship, though fewer people can see us now. Most crew members can't perceive us at all. Other passengers walk through the spaces we occupy without noticing. Our cabin, the one we thought was ours, has been occupied by a different couple since day 1. We tried to enter and realized we can't. We're not assigned there. We were never assigned anywhere. We spend our time on the open decks, watching the misty fjords pass by, experiencing the cruise we paid for but never actually boarded. We eat meals that we can't taste. We attend shows where we can't hear the music properly. We exist in a half state between life and death, gradually fading. Yesterday, I realized I couldn't remember our apartment. The place we'd lived for 6 years. I can't picture the furniture, can't recall the address. My partner can't remember their job, what they did for a living. We're forgetting our lives as we fade from the world. The ship will dock in Vancouver tomorrow. We don't know if we'll be able to disembark. We don't know if we want to. At least on the ship, we still have some form of existence. If we step onto land, will we dissipate entirely? Will we cease even this ghost of consciousness? Tonight, we stood on the deck where our memorial was held, where we thought we'd renewed our vows. The captain was there, standing alone, looking out at the water. He turned and saw us, and his eyes widened. "You're still here," he said softly. "We don't know how to leave," my partner replied. He nodded slowly. "I've seen this twice before in 30 years at sea. Spirits who can't let go, who hold on to the experiences they were meant to have. What happened to them? One eventually faded after months of sailing the same route over and over. The other," he paused, "the other is still aboard, as far as I know. Still experiencing their endless cruise, growing fainter year by year, but never quite disappearing." "Is that our fate?" I asked. "To sail forever?" "That depends on whether you can accept what happened, whether you can let go of the life you planned and embrace whatever comes next." "But how do you let go of everything? How do you accept that you'll never go home, never see friends or family again, never experience anything beyond this ship? Even knowing we're dead, even seeing ourselves fade, some part of us clings to existence. Last night, I looked in a mirror and saw nothing. No reflection at all. My partner's image had vanished hours earlier. We're invisible now to most people, transparent to the few who can still perceive us. We're becoming less real with each passing hour. The ship docks in 2 hours. We've decided we'll try to disembark, try to step onto land in Vancouver and see what happens. Maybe we'll dissipate. Maybe we'll move on to whatever comes after life. Maybe we'll find ourselves on another ship somehow, continuing this half-existence indefinitely. But we'll walk down that gangway together, holding hands we can no longer feel, stepping toward a future we can't imagine. Our 7th anniversary cruise ends where all journeys end, in uncertainty, in faith, in the hope that whatever comes next is better than fading away into nothing on a ship that carries the living while we drift through it, like mist. If you ever take a cruise and feel a cold spot on a warm day, if you see movement in your peripheral vision that vanishes when you turn, if you attend a ceremony and feel like there are more people present than you can see, remember us. Remember that ships carry more than the living. They carry the dreams and plans and unfinished journeys of those who never made it aboard, but couldn't let go of the voyage they'd planned. We'll be there, fading but not gone, sailing forever toward ports we'll never reach, celebrating anniversaries that exist only in the space between life and death, between memory and forgetting, between what was and what might have been. The gangway awaits. The shore beckons, and 2 invisible passengers prepare to disembark from a cruise they never truly boarded, stepping toward an ending they still don't understand. Together until the very last moment, when even togetherness dissolves into the light. If these stories kept you up at night, make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell so you never miss my next upload. Which anniversary cruise story disturbed you the most? Comment below and let me know. And if you survived this video, check out my playlist for more terrifying true horror stories. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most romantic getaways become the most horrifying nightmares. Stay safe out there.